I thank everybody for showing up today. I recognize, as contractors, just how busy things are, and for you to take time out of your day to be with me is truly an honor, and I appreciate that. So I will not be wasting any of your time. And the other thing that as a good operations person is we start on time. I'm pretty excited today because there are a lot of people that have taken time out of their busy days to come and spend some time with you and talk to you about, how this is going to go and what they have experienced themselves. And I want to share more of the content with you and explain, what it is that we're doing here and what is this that you need to know, and expand a little bit more about the 7 power concept. What is it take to be in business as a contractor? That's really my goal here for you today. And if we can do that well enough, then this will be time well spent. I also have some exciting news about some other stuff that I want to share with you. And because I was lucky enough and I have great people that have worked with me and want to excitingly share things, I've got some guests, fellow contractors that are on the call here today, and they're going to want to share some experiences with you. And so with that, I'm going to get started on what is the 7 power contractor approach and where did this all come from. So when I was a contractor, what I firmly believed is there were a million things that I had to master. There were just these, it couldn't be easy. It had to be a struggle. There must be something I'm missing, because on any given day, what I was feeling less and less of was successful. And what I was feeling a whole ton of was stressful. And I'm betting you feel the same way. You just think, what thing, and of course, in good nature, if you're a contractor, you want to get out into the world, you want to meet with other people, you go to webinars, and you work with people, and you think, there's got to be something that's eluding me. Here's what I will tell you is that I have stumbled on, there are 7 things you have to master. There are just 7 things, not a million things that you have to master. Now, they will take a very long time in your life to get to master them, but it was an enormous relief for me to know that there were 7 things. And it actually came from my dad years ago. We had a really growing, glowing, plumbing, heating, cooling contracting business. And my dad was a serial entrepreneur. And by the time I was a young boy, teenager, we and my brothers were in business meetings with my dad. And we had a lot of things. We had a milk company, dairy company, selling ice cream and milk store. We had a chain of liquor stores in the Northeast. We had multi-state real estate. We owned a radiant heat manufacturing company. And also we had computer software. My dad used to love to talk to me about, he says, everybody thinks their business is all that different. And they would hold his thumb and his forefinger a millimeter apart. He says they're all about the same. There are basic concepts that you have to know if you ever want to take control of your business. So what are they? Planning power, operating power, financial power, staffing power, selling power, marketing power, and the last one is sales coaching power. These are the 7 powers it takes to run your contracting business the right way. Mastering these is really what makes a world of difference. Planning power. Had a project, absolutely needed this project done. I went around to a company of 70 people and absolutely nobody could help me. And so I said, this is crazy. What are you so busy with? Grab what you're doing, come into the office, bring me everything you're doing. So we go into the conference room, and I have everybody pile their stuff on the desk. And just imagine this back in the day of paper. So there's all these stuff on the desk. Planning power is came back, had a project, absolutely needed this project done. I went around to a company of 70 people and absolutely nobody could help me. And so I said, this is crazy. What are you so busy with? Grab what you're doing, come into the office, bring me everything you're doing. So we go into the conference room, and I have everybody pile their stuff on the desk. And just imagine this back in the day of paper. So there's all these stuff on the desk. Nothing's working. I start digging through this pile, and what we find is, of course, 2 people are working on the same project, have no idea that the other person is working on it. And they all believed that they were fervently working on the project I most wanted them to do, except the problem is I had no idea that they were working on it. So all of it was bad. And finally, through this, we came up with what we needed to do, which is you've got to work on the right thing at the right time, the right way. And this is really about creating a master project list, which has all of your great ideas in your head and getting them down on paper, then working together as a group and boil that list down so that we can get to what it is that we need to do that they need to know, so that we really boil it down to the biggest projects and habits that are going to make the biggest difference at your company. And then if you think of it as a funnel, going down that list, there are 30 things that you need to work on. Even if you have all the time, money, and energy in the world, you can never work on 30 things at the same time. So the goal is to boil that list down one more time between what fixes your biggest problem or challenge and get it down to your top 5. And the top 5 is what you're saying is going to make the biggest difference with your company. So an example I like to use is if every one of your trucks leave and they go out into the world and they drive 10 minutes from your shop, an hour from your shop, they don't have what they need on the truck. They don't have enough information. They haven't been trained well enough. All of that's going to sabotage you. Or there's a service or a trade or something that you're not doing today that you need to do. That would be a great opportunity. Or a service area you're not reaching. All of those reasons would take it from the master project down to the top 30 and at the very bottom, the top 5. And that means that every week, no matter how crazy your week is, you inherently promise that you're going to work on these top 5 because those will make the biggest difference in your life. That is what made a profound change at my company and every place I've gone to other companies where they are working on the right thing at the right time, the right way. So what's next? Operating power. I was, of many jobs, being a son of the company business, I worked at every position. My dad was a firm believer that I should never ask anybody to do anything I hadn't done myself. And when I was young, I didn't appreciate that. But as I grew up, I realized it was brilliant. Because if I wasn't going to go on the roof in the dead of winter, you didn't have to go on it either. But if I was, you were coming with me. And so operating power really speaks to one of the positions I had, which is I was the install manager at my company, one of my many hats. And I had 5 install crews running every day. 5 install crews running every day. That doesn't count the service techs and anything else. And so I had trained one of our installers, his name was Bobby, to do the work the way I had trained him to do it. And I slide open the window, hand him the paper, explain to him that here's what I need done today. There's a heating system and a new boiler that needs to be installed. I can't get there, Bobby, at 10 o'clock. I can get there at 2 o'clock. He said, I said to him, do you understand what I'm looking for? And he goes, yes, absolutely. 2 o'clock, I arrive at the house, and I look at the job. I'm in the basement walking around using every 4-letter word that I can't pronounce out loud. I collect myself, grab Bobby, take him out to the truck outside, and I said, Bobby, this is nothing like what we want done, what I discussed. And he said, yeah, I know. Your brother Richie showed up and said, do it this way. And what I realized in that moment is we had no way of doing our thing. So whatever way you fell out of bed, you were welcome to do it. There was nothing that was in writing. There was no method that had been taught. And so here's what came from this awful moment. The customer was not served well. I wasn't feeling too happy. Bobby wasn't happy. Nobody was winning. When Bobby and I began to talk was Bobby believed that I laid awake at night figuring out ways to make his day awful. And Bobby believed that, and I believe the same thing, which is that we were both doing the same thing. We were believing that each of us was laying awake at night trying to figure out how to ruin each other's day. And this is the story, which is people will ruin each other's day unless they know that there's a way that they can make it better. So what is it that you need to do in operating power? You need to download out of your head the policies it takes to run your company in writing, the procedures it takes to do in writing. And the way I like to say this is if you had 5 or 10 great plumbing techs, could they leave your shop, go 20 minutes away, and they all get to a toilet reset and do it exactly the way you want it done? And the answer is 0 to none if you've never created it in writing. And this is taking what is in your head or subjective or opinion-based and making it objective. That's really where you make your progress. Now, the trick is how to get buy-in. My shop was a New York City union shop. So you can imagine that was a pretty tough test to be able to get people to come and buy in on this. There is a process that you need to do. So when I created the manuals all these many years ago, I had been trying to create manuals for years and years and years, and I had no luck. It took me, a whole year of riding around and sitting with people in my office, documenting just the tasks we do at every position on our organizational chart. And so I needed to fill in from that. That said, I was prepared to write these manuals like it was the 10 Commandments, come out and trying to impose the law in a New York City union shop. Fortunately for me, my good friend Dan Allahan, an industry writer, said that's not going to work. And so he helped us because I could never get it in plain English. It always sounded like a law book. He came in and he spent time with us. We had meetings, and we spent what is now $153,000 in today's money to create this. This was the learning step of how to get buy-in. Financial power. You could do all the work. You can do what you love and hope the money will follow. My recommendation is do the work and make sure that you figured your budget. So what happened to me that convinced me that a budget's important is for years and years we ran our business and we were running it blind, financial blinders, if you will. And it wasn't until the end of this budget year, the accountants would walk in and say one of the two things. They would say, congratulations, you have a lot of money. You got a couple of weeks to go out and buy stuff. Or pay yourself a bonus, of which we were quite ecstatic. Then, of course, they would show up at other years and go, it wasn't a great year. We have to make the bank statements look good. I hope you guys have money in the bank because you're not getting paid for a couple of months. Yes, you heard me right, a couple of months. So I learned that there is power in knowing the financials. There's a difference between what I call real-world accounting and tax accounting. And Ellen Rohr is my great friend who's so great at this stuff. Tax accounting is important. It allows you to defer taxes. It keeps you out of jail. There's a lot of things that you need to do in tax accounting, postpones and minimizes taxes, but it doesn't help you one bit in running your company. What you need is what we call real-world accounting. And so the difference is tax accounting is what you get from your accountants. So that would be like driving your financial car by looking out the rearview mirror versus real-world accounting, which is being able to drive your car by looking out the front windshield. And that is a world of difference. And the only way, people love to tell me, what's your favorite flat rate book? And so my next question to them is, have you done a budget and do you know what the correct selling price is? And the answer many times is no. And said, well, it doesn't matter what is the best flat rate book or whatever book for pricing you use until you know what is the right selling price. So the right selling price is only achieved when you do it through a budget. You need that first. Here's a fast test of your financial skills. Basically is, do you know what your labor is percentage of sales or billable hours? Do you know what your average service invoice is? Do you know how many calls they run and how many they complete? These are things that you need to know. And what I like to teach is what I call the 3-budget approach, 3 columns. It is not meant to be a replacement for real-world budgeting, but it's really meant to pull the blinders off. And that is, the first column is everything on your financial statements that talk about the cost of doing and being in business. The second part is everything in your second column that you're going to do differently this year that you have to account for. And so when you add those 2 columns together, you come up with one price, but there's no profit. So you need to know where the profit is, and that's where you're figuring in your gross profit to make sure that you get what it is that you're seeking. This is the beginning of what you need for the world of financial power. My brother Richie and I were usually the last guys standing, tech-wise, 2 o'clock in the morning. It would be he and I. And we had followed our dad and uncle's method of hiring people. We found out who had really good experience help at other companies and we would pirate them away by paying them more. And then they would come and work for us, having known that we already overpaid them. And then at 2 o'clock in the morning, Richie and I would be talking to each other and go, really? That guy was the best at their shop? He's barely mediocre here. And all of these positions, when you ask anybody in an interview, can you do this? Can you do this? What is the only answer you will forget? Sure, I do it all the time. Yeah, you know what? That's something. I know QuickBooks. If you're an inside person, answer the phone. It's not a problem. I dispatch plenty of text. Not a problem. Everybody can do everything in an interview. So what you really need to do to get hold of staffing power is to find the holes in this existing staff and fix them. And what I mean by that is my own example. I was the second best tech out of 25. My brother Richie was always the best tech. And to this day, I suspect that Richie still is the best tech. I've been out of that business for 15 years now, and they're still humming along. But I would talk customers out of doing repairs that I was not confident in. Think about that for a minute. I was the boss's kid, and I was talking them out of repairs because I was not comfortable. So all of your existing staff, no matter where they are at your company, they are full of holes, and they are never going to share it with you unless you make it safe. And then you have to have a way to fix it. Finding the holes in new and experienced hires, that's the other thing I was speaking to about when they come in, they can do everything. But if you have written tests and hands-on tests and physical tests, you're going to be able to get what you need, which is to find out what can they really do. But ultimately, the freedom, the real freedom of staffing power comes, which is what we did years ago, is we decided that instead of hiring and stealing away people that were prima donnas because they had talents and we had to take what they did, we went and hired young, willing people and provided them the skills. And that totally changes the equation. I'm going to open up to Jason a little bit later on to talk about this, because this is what changed the dynamic at their company, is the ability to build them from scratch. That's something you're going to want to hear. Selling power. Once I did my first budget back in the 90s, the awful truth came home. And what was that awful truth? I believed that if I bought a motor for 30 bucks and I paid a tech $30, there was going to be, like plenty of profit left over. So if it's 100 bucks, there's $40 left. That's going to be great. And one day, because I was in what is now today Nexstar, is I actually did a budget. And I found out in 1994 that my selling price needed to be $150 an hour. So Richie and I did a budget. We come up $150 an hour. We figure out what a toilet is, and I think it was $400 back then. And Richie's first comment to me is, do it again. So we do it again, and it ends up being exactly the same price again. And that was a scary moment, my friends. But it was also enlightening, because what I knew at that point is that unless we got better skills, we were not going to be able to teach them what they needed to do. And that also, not everybody is our customer. If cheap price is all that you're interested in, that's something that we can't help you with. We have to deliver more than that. So it's having a documented sales process. We had a 5-step sales process, which I've been teaching for 15 years to contractors everywhere I go. It's not 50 steps, it's not 500 steps, because it becomes undoable to do it over and over again. But there are 5 basic steps to running a service call or sales call the right way to maximize the results. You need to teach techs how to do ethical selling. I'm not advocating anybody sell anything to anyone that's not in their best interest, first, second, and third. That said, you're there as the expert. You need to take the blinders off and make really good recommendations and have the sales skills to present ethical sales. And your big ticket salespeople, the ones who sell the big jobs, whether it's a whole bathroom remodel, a kitchen remodel, a brand new heating system, brand new air conditioning system, whatever that is that you sell, The big ticket salespeople also need to be trained on these same processes so that they build the value of what it is they're selling once you're selling the right price. I was on Long Island, New York, and I only had 2,000 competitors. And I hate to say it, but this was so long ago, it was in the yellow pages. That's how many different books and ads, companies that were out there. From the little ones, the white trucks, to the big companies, that was all of my competition. And I was in a basic, what they perceived the customer as a commodity business. And until we learned to differentiate what we do, and part of that came from the knowing of our sales prices, that we trained people in our shop, not in your home. We had manuals, we had systems, we had a training center, we had training curriculum. And the trick for us was then to go out into the world and explain to our marketplace why we were worth the money, if anything, really cheap. So I would tell people that if it's important to have a clean criminal background, licensed person at your door, to look at the job, to give you a price before they begin work, to do the work expert because they've been trained at my own facility. And if the occasion comes up that you need to have someone come back, we will come back and make it right. And we also had the longest warranty. These were the things that differentiated us. The goal of marketing power is to get the right amount of calls from the right customer at the right time. Those are the three rights. Getting a ton of calls when you can't do it is what you're seeking. Now, we always want to have more calls than we can humanly do in a day, because if you can, that allows you to be selective about where you go. And what I mean by the right customer is you want to make sure that you have a customer who values their property, values their time, values their health, values their safety. They want peace of mind. And for that, they're willing to pay a little more. And getting the calls at the right time is getting your calls when you're already crazy busy is not as important as handling what we used to refer to as shoulder seasons or downtime. So if you think of it like a graph, the right time would be, in the case of a heating and cooling company, the spring and fall are tough times of year. So that's where you want to boost it. And so what we're trying to think about is we want to have enough marketing in place so that we don't fall off the cliff. It's more like stepping off the curb. That's really what we're seeking. Sales coaching power. Years ago, because it was a union shop, we felt that we paid you. Why do we have to reward you for doing what we're asking you to do? But then I went away to meetings and I learned that you do have to do for above and beyond work. I came home and I spoke to my dad and my two older brothers and said, just because we're paying them isn't a reason that they're going to do work. They need to be rewarded for good behavior. So I said to them, what can I have in the way of money for these 25 techs? And they said $2,500. So I said, well, I can work with $2,500 a month. And they laughed and they go, no, $2,500 for the year. I said, $2,500 for the whole year? This is now back in like 1990. And so I figured to myself, well, this is going to be difficult. So I called together my 4 field supervisors and I said, okay, I've got $2,500 to reward the team. I need 2 things. I need something objective. And I found this book called 1001 Rewards. And I gave them the book and I told them to huddle up for the next hour in here and come out and let me know what you find. So I figured they wanted the money or they wanted time off. And what I found, to my great surprise, was when they opened the door and invited me in, here's what they had to say. You love to have letters and testimonials from customers. This is before, the review buzz days and all the other kinds of online media. So if we get a customer to write a letter, think of this. Here's what I'm saying. Technicians would get customers to do a handwritten letter and send it to us. So I thought to myself, well, this is great for sales and marketing, like it. Okay, what did you come up with rewards? And they go, we want better tools, hand tools, and we also want to go to the better training classes, the exclusive training classes. I hope this is sinking in. because those were two answers that I would have never guessed. They wanted better tools to do their job better, and they wanted to go to special training so they could be better. How cool was that? So that was what was really amazing to me. So sometimes when we think we know all the answers, we don't. And that really made it a big thing. So now the question became, who do we reward? So number one, the hardest skill for techs these days is to talk to customers, make good recommendations, and sell the appropriate things. So first and foremost, we reward techs who do the selling process. The next people we reward are big ticket salespeople. And those are the people that go out and sell those big jobs that I was talking about. Now, there's a trick to this. It isn't just on pure dollar sales. And so there's more to it. They need to sell jobs based on their opportunities. So there's a bunch of measurements that go to this. And the last person is the installer who did not sell the job, but is now needs to come and bring the job in on time, on budget. These are the things that make a difference. All right, so you know the 7 powers. You know what's important, and you know what you need to do. So what do you do next? The first thing you need to do is build your operating manuals, and that's why this program was first created. I created a program that mirrored what I did out in the real world. I'm not able to go everywhere and do everything that I once did. So this was the program that I created. I have some details about it. I'm going to explain to you why you should care, because here's the answer. You cannot run your company by talking to people and handing out memos. The shops I go to, I always know what's going on when they have your mom doesn't live here, clean up after yourself, and you know, put the toilet seat down, and every other memo you have in your office that's screaming at them to have better behavior. It's exhausting. You repeat yourself over, and every day you put out the same fire that broke out yesterday. So building your operating manuals is the most important thing that you need to do. A great question is, what does the program contain? So what it contains are the operating manuals that I teach and that I share with others. And it's also got a program where I will give you pre-support so that you can take these templates, which are 90 to 95% of what you need, and then customize it, which is so much easier at a fraction of the cost of what it is that I did. When you come to the workshop, I'm going to be able to build more into the tips and tricks and the habits, and we're going to work on the CSR, dispatcher, and tech program so that you know that this is where the change, the fundamental change in your company comes from. The ability of your CSRs to convert the calls, capture all the information, build the sales information, hand it off to the dispatcher, even if it's them when they hang up the phone, so that they maximize the schedule, get all the information to the tech, so the tech knows how to run the call the right way and get all the information back to the office. I also have post support, so when you leave, there's a workshop checklist and a whole bunch of other information. To learn more about that, 7powercontractor.com, BYOM 7PC is where all of that information. The goal is to get on my 30-minute go-to-meeting. So if you're a company of $1 million or more in sales, in the plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical company, this program is what you have been searching for. So what are the manuals that I get? What you're staring at is not even a good picture because it only has 7 manuals. There are 9 manuals, which, by the way, now fit tablets. This is just a printed up picture to show you what it looks like. This is for accounts receivable, accounts payable, CSR, dispatcher, apprentice, install coordinator, the technician, everything they need to know from the time they wake up till they go to bed, and whatever trade you do, plumbing, heating, cooling, and or electric. These pages of the manuals, not counting the trade chapters, are 224 pages, but it's not the words on the page. It's the words and how they're written. They're more like your big brother, big sister coaching you, and that's what makes a world of difference. So the base manuals, 90 to 95% of what you need. My pre-care guidance and support. A one-of-a-kind 2-day workshop with the tips and tricks that get it out, get it in your culture, get the buy-in, so it's not like throwing a rubber ball against the wall that bounces out. This is why it's so much more than words on a page. The workshop checklist, which gives you the guidance when you leave. And then there's one-to-one go-to-meeting support and after hours when you leave. Hey, I know what happened. I was a contractor. You have the best of intentions, but when you leave, the world hits you. So that's why I'm going to help you so you won't fall down in this area. I'd like to open it up, Lena, to our questions at this point. So let me, actually, before the questions, I did want to get some weigh-in. Let me see if we can open up. Jason,
are you going to unmute those guys?
Yeah, I got to unmute. I have to unmute.
Okay.
Jason there. Yep. Jason?
Hello. Yep. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jason. Can we hear you okay?
I can hear you fine.
Jason Cornetti is a company I worked at years and years ago, 2005. They were a fine company, and they were in the drain business. And when I walked into his company, I was a snotty, thinking know-it-all, haven't been there, and what could these guys possibly teach me about drain? And what I did was get my blinders pulled over because I had no idea about water jetting and pipe bursting and all of the other stuff. And so when I came with all of these systems, I figured Jim and Jason, who were probably about, 5 techs, $1.5 million in sales possibly, they would be excited about that. Jason, what was your experience about when I arrived and all I was bringing?
Oh, great. Here we go. Now I have to do more work. So, yeah, that's, it was, I felt like I was in the trenches. I was in the trenches, literally, physically. I felt like I was the only one that, I had to be out there in the field. I had to be doing the work. Otherwise, it wasn't gonna get done right. I had, there were a few guys. We had, like you said, our 4 or 5 techs at the time, and they came to us from some other companies. They were, they had some bad habits, but they were doing fine. The turning point was, okay, how can I train guys, and how can I get myself out of the trench? And just kind of, put my head down, followed, your lead with the operations manual, and we just started to customize. And the thing that really turned things around for me was the apprentice to technician training manuals. And these were the manuals that we created. It was how we do things a little bit better than, the average company out there. We put it in writing, and, we had our manuals. And then we threw our very first apprentice to technician training class. It was about 2005. And it was here in our new building while it was under construction. And, I brought in four young guys, one of which was Steve Sala, who today is currently our service manager. Came in, he was eager, he was willing, and at the time I had the manuals. I was like, all right, let's do this. We sit down, we had training class, we were reading out of the manual together, and not only did we read out of the manual, but then we went into the training workshop area, and they showed me what we just read, the theory behind it, and then we put it to real life, and we did it in the training center. And we did that over and over until they got it, and once they got it, we went on to the next task. And this is how we were able to build technicians. And again, here we are 12 years later. Steve is still with us. He's a service manager, and he's training out of the same manuals that Al, you and I built together. Not only that, he's improving it in the weekly meetings that we do. He's getting the input from the 15 technicians that we currently have now. He's taking their input and improving on the manuals and training on them better than I ever did.
Well, the good news is you guys epitomize the 7 powers, and we're tracking at 7 million these days, and highly profitable.
Yep, that's correct.
And in all disclosure, is that Jason? I sound like the commercial for the Gillette guy. I like the company so much I bought it. We're in the franchise together.
Yeah.
So we do the Zoom Train franchise together. But before that, and nothing is in the air was a paid endorsement, because Jason will tell you if you want anything you want, he'll share. It's not a case of whatever. But it really has made a fundamental difference. And I thank you so much for sharing today.
My pleasure.
Let me open up. I'm gonna mute you back here, and I'm gonna open up to Denise. Is a bona fide 100% graduate of the first Build Your Operating Manual workshop. So why don't you share, what your hesitation was and what made you go, and what are your thoughts of now that you've finished?
Well, what made us go was we're kind of stuck in a position where we were, working, and we're seeing results, but we just felt like everybody was on a different page, our employees, because we're a true family-owned business. My husband and I started the business. Now both our kids work here, and it's just like mom and dad. You go ask mom one thing, you get one answer. You don't like it, you go ask dad. And when we added the 2 kids into the picture, now they have 2 more people they can go get answers from. And we're sitting around one day figuring out, what are we doing wrong? Where do we need to go from here? And I happened to see Al's picture in a magazine and read his article. And I turned around to my son and says, email this guy right now that we need to figure out what he teaches. We need this. And we talked to Al. We went out to Phoenix for 2 days, and it's really changed our business. Our employees, we read through the manuals. They understand what's expected of them. It's not subjective anymore. It's objective. So when somebody has an issue, we just say, well, what does your manual say? And it's starting to really hit home with them. This morning we had a meeting, and one of them says, well, it says in our manual this. And we're like, that's right, Shelby. That's what it says. That's what you're supposed to do. And it's been great because we met with our apprentices and read through their manuals, and they were the most excited of anybody, because when you build your organizational chart, you can show your apprentices where they can go inside the organization. And in our case, we would like to have a sales department eventually, and one of our apprentices was super excited that he could actually do something like that one day. And they've really seen the potential in building a career here at Epic, and that's really what we want from them. And hopefully they'll go tell their friends, and we can start growing our apprentices in-house.
That is great. I think that is phenomenal what you're sharing, because that really is what was my hope, and that you guys really went out and made it happen. So the support and the customization of the program and stuff, did that really help? Did you feel like you got what you needed?
Yeah, we got everything we needed, and what we didn't get in Phoenix, Al has been there for us every step of the way. Periodic meetings with him to touch base with us to see how we're doing, what we need from him, questions, problems, concerns, anything. And it's really now it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work, but you really start to see it pay off once you get your first manual rolled out and the guys are using it, and everybody knows what's expected of them. And it's been very helpful when you need to have what we used to call disciplinary action, and now we call it corrective action. We have guys in and say, okay, here's the deal, here it is, it's all written down. Do you understand it? What do you need from us to help you get to where you need to be? And it's been good. It's been really good for our business.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing everything today. That was really spectacular, and I don't know that anybody else could really share, because you have gone through it. You've made it real. You've embraced everything that we've done together and just made it really go. So you deserve all the credit, and you deserve everything that's going your way. Really proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Al.
All right. I am going to turn you back into a mute, so hang on. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I just would like to open it up for questions. And one of the questions I saw on the question board was, should you involve the whole staff in creating the master project list? So ultimately, really, what I believe is the owners and the managers are the ones who should be creating the master project list, because the master project list is really collecting the thoughts from yourself, the owners, and the top management, and getting that down. The problem is, if you think about it, when you open it up to everybody, it's kind of like, with your house of worship or your town, if you've ever gone to a committee meeting, it's a really great chance to eat donuts and have a lot of conversation and talk, but rarely do you come up with what you want. So my feeling is that you need to involve the team, but not just yet. And so the way that we get to that is really kind of the issue here, is to make sure that we first get the master project list clear on what we want and what we think is most important, then boil it down to the top 30. And the top 5 is not a hidden top 5. It's put up on a board, a whiteboard, where everybody at the shop can see it, because we do want them to understand where this came from and what we're doing. Now, at a shop like Jim Cornetti and Jason Cornetti, and Jason was sharing before, they have trained their staff that if you have a great idea as you go through the manuals of things that you want to change, or you're out there doing the work, by all means, let us know in the meetings that we have, in the weekly meetings, and we'll put it on the master project list and let it work its way through. And their company is so evolved that when you literally vie for the opportunity to work on something that's top 5, that's really what you're after. That's what it makes a big difference to get the buy-in. I also got a question about, the investment for the program, which I think is a nice way, and that is something I will be discussing in the 30-minute one-to-one program, because I need to show you all of what's in the program. It is literally a fraction of what it was that I spent all those many years ago. And when I did, by the way, I emerged with 100 to 150 pages, not the amount of work and things that are in depth today. I just was not able to know what I needed to do. I had to figure it out. And the difference in this program is I'm there as your trail guide. So if you've never been mountain hiking, it's pretty good to have a trail guide along the way. And even if you've done a little hiking, you don't know the trail. So that's what I bring to this program. That's really what we're after. I was trying, it's just a case of, this is pretty much the biggest thing that I can give you as far as the main questions. The other questions I get is, is there a lot of work or things that you need to do? And that's really kind of an issue as to what it is that you need to do. The work will never be easier than what we're talking about. That's kind of, the essence of it. The work will never be better or directed than with my guidance. That's what we're speaking to here. So that question was a great one. It is something that's there. The other question I have is, I think I have a manuals. And the question is, usually you have what it takes, which is 1/10 of the manuals. It's only, what it is that you have is a fraction of that. These are much more intense and much more of what you need to do. So with respect to time, I think we've covered pretty much what it is that I wanted to cover in today's program. Here's what you need to do. You need to get this program and find out what you need to do. And the very best way to do that is at 7powercontractor.com/BYOM7PC. And if you're a company that's $1 million or more in sales, annual sales, and you're in the plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical business, click on that link. We will get to a 30-minute, but you need to move fast. Even though this program says there's a November 15th and 16th 2-day workshop, this isn't just a workshop. These are manuals and templates and things that I will be guiding you along. So the sooner you're in, the further you can go. And that is what makes a world of difference. That is what I want to share with you today. So unless there's any new questions, Helena, are there any new questions that I might have missed that I need to address?
I think Joey had a question about the investment for the program and if we're going to live stream for those who can't get away.
Yeah, so as far as the investment, that's what I was speaking about. It's a fraction of that $153,000 that I had.
Right.
If you cannot leave your business and you cannot come and be here with me for 2 days, this program isn't for you. Someday I might do something different, but really that's not in the near future. You need to be able to leave your business and come to me, which is why I picked $1 million or more in sales, because at that size, you should be in that position. And Helena, who sat with me and did the workshop with me, will tell you that it was difficult for some guys, but the reality is you're going to want to stream it. You're going to want to do all these other things. After 5 seconds, somebody's knocking on your door, grabs you. I got a question, got a question, got a question. Until you have the operating manual, here's the quirky part of this, that will always go on. because they need the support that you have to keep on coaching them and giving them the answers instead of letting them do what they need to do. So the answer is this will not be live streamed. It's this part of this program. And as far as the investment, it's a fraction. So if you're $1 million or more in sales, the thing you need to do is click on that link, set up your 30-minute thing. Helena, does that address that question?
Yeah, I think that's great. And then Tom says, is the workshop via webinars or in person? I think we've answered that question.
Yes, those are. Yeah, that's a great question, Tom. It is an in-person workshop for the reason I just said. It's vitally important to add this piece in, but it's not just the workshop. You got to sign up, get the manuals. I'll coach you how to get them set up, get the work done. You'll be handheld through the steps, and the faster you get in, the better that it goes.
Tom wants to know it's in Phoenix, right? Yes, it's in Phoenix.
Yes, it is in Phoenix. And when you click on that link, all of that information, there's a ton of stuff. Thank you, Helena, for putting all of that stuff there, all the information that you need. But if you have a question or something you want to do, my email is al@7powercontractor.com. That's al, at 7powercontractor.com. And I will be happy to answer any of the questions that come up. But I hope I was able to answer the questions for you, explain more about the 7 Power concepts, share a program that I feel if you're, again, $1 million or more in sales and you're in the plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical business, that you're going to want to participate. I thank you so much, Denise and Jason, for taking time out of your busy day to share with them so you have heard from people who have experienced the power of operating power, which is where you want to get started. So with your permission, I'm going to end it right here.
Thanks, everyone.